So defensiveness, I think, is such a big part of this. I want to lean into that a little more. And it feels in some ways like the challenge to take ownership to get defensive is human nature, even if we might say it's human fallen nature. Why is defensiveness such a common go-to? And if we realize that's our go-to, what can we do about it?
Yeah, that's the unfortunate legacy of trauma because trauma turns people inward. It puts them in a self-protect mode. So think about when you're a child, if you're in a family where there's trauma, there's chaos, there's the power differential is huge when you're a child. And if those adults are doing a less than stellar job of being a parent and protecting the child has to become self-centered and figure out how am I going to take care of me? And so that starts a progression
Mm.
of I need to protect me. And that's, we use terms like hypervigilance. That's what hypervigilance is. It's watching out my surroundings at all time to make sure I'm going to be okay. So I think it starts there. It's human nature. I think fallen nature, it's the sin legacy. Yes, we've sinned, but we've also been sinned against, and those that's the fallout from that.
Mm.
So if people aren't protecting us, we have to protect ourselves. So defensiveness feels very natural and very like, yeah,
Oh,
that's the logical step.
amen.
So getting people out of that trauma brain and yeah, on the same side as the spouse is hard.
It is, and testify like it takes work. Uh, I there at some point came a shift for me to realize uh, responsibility and condemnation are like two pathways, and so as I leaned into responsibility, and I mean it could be anything like responding to my wife, and my response may have been better than what it was, but then she'd be like, but your tone. And then it'd be like, well, great. Now I have to, not only do I have to say the right things, now I have to say it the right way. But those were the subtle shifts. Like, okay, now I say the right thing, but like, how does my face look? How is my tone? Am I truly apologizing? Or is it like, I mean, like, I wish this would be a story about my kids, but like, I'm sorry. And it like, less robotic, Stuart, less robotic. Like, what does it look like to actually just experience it and allow it to just say, yeah, that was a really horrible way in which my tone was message like the message was we're making baby steps, we're improving, but there's still work to go, and just to not receive that as a condemnation message but a responsibility message, and to have a moment where it's like high five myself, like, hey, at least we said something in the right direction. There's other parts to work on. We can do
Of
that.
course. And you put your hand on your heart. I think
Mm,
there has to be a shift from the head to the heart.
yeah.
Because that's where the rationalizing comes in. We can be real cognitive, and that's why I used to say that to Bill. I could have cognitive Bill or I could have heart Bill, and
Mm.
cognitive Bill will explain and make everything sound so smart, and you can hear his three master's degrees coming out. But and I'll say I don't want teacher Bill, I want heart Bill.
Mm. Yeah.
It's important too to recognize the story that we're telling ourselves when defensiveness happens, because in some ways defensiveness is like anxiety. And I heard Dr. Kurt Thompson speak on anxiety, and it was so incredible because he made this point that like sometimes we treat the human like they're just heads on a stick and like, oh, you're feeling anxiety, let's give you a pill for that, let's deal with your anxiety. But he said, we're connected human beings, and that anxiety is coming from somewhere, and it's a story that we're telling ourselves, usually based around worst case scenarios. That anxiety says, I'm anxious about this because if this happens, then that will happen, and then that will happen. And ultimately, the end of the story for anxiety is, and I will be all alone.
Mm.
And so what's making me
Yes.
anxious is in the present moment, something is triggering that cascading worst case story of I end up all alone. And I think defensiveness is similar in that I am needing to protect something because I'm telling myself a story that says, well, and if this plays itself out, then I will be alone or no one will love me. And if we don't have an awareness of a story we're telling ourselves, then of course we're going to get defensive because like you said, the best way to be safe is build a wall. Like it's natural to not want to be alone or to be rejected. So get defensive to try to keep that from happening. And yet, ironically, when we don't see it happening, we tend to create the very environment that we fear. Mm-hmm. That in being defensive, we are pushing people away. In being defensive, we are creating isolation. We're creating the very thing we're trying to avoid. So if we can see that, if we can see what's happening and see the bigger story that we're believing, then I think we can start to pull out of it and go, okay, that's not what's at stake here. Because I do have people that will defend me. The Lord is on my side. I've got a group I can go to. I've got, a mentor, a friend that I can process with, and ultimately believing the good-hearted nature of my spouse, that they want to be on my side as well. In the case where a marriage is, working on recovery, if we can see some of those positive messages, then I think we can bring down the defense reaction and be present in the moment for what's happening.
Yeah.